Aloha. Ha. Look at that shirt, huh? Yeah, I kind of sit around sometimes, and just favorite. Well, actually, I got an email, but I also think, you know what? I don't have a Peter Tosh shirt, even though he hated white people. And he did. I always like this. One of my favorite rock and roll stories is so in the late 70s, 78-ish, Some Girls era, the Stones started their own record company. They still got distributed by like some big conglomeration. But, you hear that a lot. They have, all these bands have their own record thing, like Swan Song with the Zeppelin. But anyway, they signed Peter Tosh. So maybe the Stones was Rupert Lowenstein. Prince Rupert Lowenstein was the president. He's a prince, apparently. But Peter Tosh was one of the original Waylon Wailers. Taught Bob Marley to play guitar. But he was one of their first signings. So famously, a big song was "Don't Look Back." And I'm gonna play that one. That's why I'm holding the guitar. Because I guess the shirt inspired me. But it was funny because I was getting ready to write down the lyrics to that yesterday, and I found that I had written them down back in the 90s, but I never. It's one of those songs, it's kind of nothing going on. It's just GC. And for whatever reason, it feels like I can play it now. It's nothing exciting. You got to be able to sing it. And when I say that, I mean, these songs that are kind of straight ahead. There's no major riffs, although you can kind of try and do the horn riff, the dun 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 dun. But if you can just still play it and somehow get the rhythm going and just sell it, and that's where there's the difference between just singing a song and inhabiting a song, as I would describe it. I don't know if that's, but that's what I'm going to try and do. I'm feeling good about it. But when I play it for you, it'll be the second time I played it all the way through, which the first time was like a minute ago. I've been kind of fooling around with it, but I just actually sang the 3 verses, which consist of like 2 lines each. But and that's the thing, a song really well, but now you look at the, I never really knew all the words, or thought or cared. But oh yeah, the story, Peter Tosh. So Keith Richards has a house in Jamaica and had one there a long time, and I don't know, nor do I need to know, but it may come up that he still has one there. But anyway, he let Peter Tosh stay in it. And back then, like early 80s, because Peter Tosh got shot and died in 83, 85, something like that. But Peter Tosh famously built a bonfire in his house and burnt all the furniture of Keith Richards. So, as cool as Keith Richards thinks he is, and most of us into music and into the Stones think he's really cool, but Peter Tosh wasn't overly impressed. And then famously on Saturday Night Live, Mick Jagger, and this is from the video, I suppose. Yeah, they fought, what's this, shadow? I don't think Mick had mutton chops, but back in the day when radio was your only thing, I grew up outside of Boston, WBCN, and then WCOZ, that came on the scene when I was probably around this time. And that was slightly younger demographic and slightly less hip than WBCN. And then you had ZLX started sometime probably in the 80s, and that was just when they totally were just branding it as classic rock. But hearing Don't Look Back, I mean, I suppose if I had been older, I would have had the album that it was on. But hearing that was like, when you were just relying on radio, it was just breath of fresh air, and such a pleasure to all of a sudden just, dun, 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 dun. Some of the songs you used to hear on the radio were just amazing. There's nothing like that anymore. just because of the whole context. There may be stations on Sirius or something where you're hearing everything. You got your dead channels and stuff. But this was like everybody had to listen. There was for rock music in the Boston area. You had only a handful of stations, if that. So you were going to WHGY. I think that was out of Providence, 94.1. And I still have the Stones album, the tape. I hope I still have it anyways. But I taped Emotional Rescue off the radio, and I've always held on to that. Because, of course, at the midway point, the DJ comes on, and he's like, that's side one. And it's just kind of a lost thing. So it's nice still having that. That's all on that subject. So I just figured I'd make a video because I was excited to wanted to report on my weekend. So Saturday, I went up to Charlotte's Web Pub, and I had been invited back in to play inside by Brittany, the owner. I was out playing the previous Sunday and Saturday, but she comes out there, and sometimes she comes out there, and they got a horse out there, and she'll walk by and won't even really say anything to me. Not in a bad way, just kind of walks by. I'm singing, I'll smile or whatever, or be ready to say hi, but she won't even look at me. But last Sunday, she's like, you ready to come back inside? And I'm like, yeah, if you want. Yes, that's how. I'm like, sure. I'm like, did you check with Buddy? That Buddy Roberts is the guy who, she's like, Buddy doesn't own the bar. So I showed up I got a late start because I was fucking spent. So I ended up sleeping till like 10:30. Wake up and feed the cats at about 8. And then by the time you go to the pool and eat lunch, it was like 1:30. So, but anyway, nobody was there. Like literally when I walked in, one guy was there, one of the regulars, Paul, who's all right. He's like the one guy who got me high one time. And that was more, he was getting high out in the back, and I walked over and invited myself. And, but then Larry and Gino, two other regulars. Gino, I know, is an Air Force veteran, I believe. He's like 78 but they're cool guys. And Larry's a cool guy. He was telling me he went to the Dylan tour in 74, so he loves when I play the Dylan in Pembroke Pines with the band. And I was trying to impress on him that they just put out the box set that has that actual concert. See that? There's like 35 shows there. A couple of them are not complete. Like just out of like 35 roughly shows, there's just a couple that aren't completely there. And I don't know if Larry grasped what I was telling him, because they put out that famous album Before the Flood from this tour. And this has only the Dylan songs, none of the band songs. But Larry, and I had to tell him, he's like, 72. I'm like, Larry, Dylan didn't tour in 72. And don't fuck with me. I know my Dylan shit. Good-naturedly, of course. So if I remember, the next time I go, I got to bring this for him. I'm not going to give it to him. Hollywood, Florida. What's this afternoon show? Does that mean there was an evening show? I guess it does. Why is the evening show not there? January 19th, Coliseum, North Carolina. See, it's like they didn't, but that's Hollywood, Florida, Hollywood Sportatorium. That's down there. Afternoon show. See, it's nice, though. All different covers. And these are just each a show. First show was, I've only got like 4 more. I'm listening to them all, but not in any rush. I got 4 more shows to go. But the first show, they opened the tour in January 3rd in Chicago. And that's it. Pretty much 18 songs Dylan did. And he would come out with the band, and they'd opened every show with Most Likely You Go Your Way and You Go Mine. And they closed every show with that. Almost every show. He would throw in, like, for instance, the next show I got coming up is February 13th at the Forum in Inglewood, California, and they did Blowing in the Wind after that. So that's a 20-song show. That's kind of a rarity for the tour. But then they do, like, let's see, roughly about 9 songs with the band, and then the band would play, I think, and then Dylan would come out and do solo, and he played It's All Right Maude every show. And the rest of the songs, a couple others he played at every show. Then the band would come back out and they'd finish up together. And that was generally the structure. But that was fun. So I played Tangled Up in Blue for Larry. But there was a point where there was a good amount of people in the bar, and they were all smoking. All these biker chicks came in, and they're all just standing there smoking right in front of me. That's a bar, I understand, Now, when I go up to the pool here at the RV park and some douchebag smoking, I'm not cool with that. And I feel it's my prerogative to be uncool with that. Why? How ignorant can you be that? And you're a dick if you're like expressing that, oh, there's a no smoking sign and you're smoking because you don't give a fuck. And you're considered the dick. So it went well, and I played 2 sets. 2 good sets, and I feel it went well. I was happy with my performance for the most part. Started out a little rough. Opened up with Ballad of Ira Hayes. I like to do that, there are a lot of veterans and stuff, and kind of fucked up a few lines. There's a couple lines. I play that song somewhat regularly, and, you can sing most of the lines with the melody, but there's a couple where there's like more words, so you gotta kind of, how Dylan would do that a lot. Just like he throws these lines together, and there's one at the end in the last verse, he'd raise the flag there and lower it like he'd throw a dog a bone, and I just can't. Larry. Ira started drinking hard and jail was off in his home. They'd let him raise a flag there and lower it like you'd throw a dog a bone. I just sometimes stumble over that line. So that went fairly well. And I was happy with that. And I like that. I like the uncomfortableness of it sometimes. Obviously I'm nervous, but also I got no problem if people don't like what I'm playing. Like, I kind of like the challenge of just plowing through it, being like, I don't care. In fact, it's funny because couple of my siblings are they were like, why don't you play some Seeger or something? And there was some dude there, Bob, I think his name was, or Bill or Bob. And he's like, you got to do some Seeger. And I'm like, yeah, I don't play that. I think I may have looked at the camera just because I had the camera behind me because I wanted it to see the crowd, which wasn't all that big. And I'm like, that to me seems like band songs. You need a whole band. He's like, oh, I always play it on my acoustic guitar. And I kind of let it lay there. God, I hate if I'm going to give in on that and play a Seeger. I just never, he's one of those guys just in the mid-'80s you used to hear a lot on the radio. And I just didn't really like it, and Night Moves was just cheesy and you heard it all the time. I like that live one, dun 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 dun, something like that. That's a different tune. Hold your head up high. But so that was funny. So that went well. And then Sunday I went to Clearwater, the Bay Sound, and saw Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi band with Dwayne Betts band opening, Dickie's son. And I got a picture with Dwayne Betts. And I went up to him and he played 4 songs, like about a half hour for the opening set. And he put Blue Sky was one of them, and it was good. But when I get up there, I shook his hand. I'm like, dude, stick to your own stuff. And he's like, what? No, don't play any Allman Brothers? I'm like, yeah, I know what you say. He's like, it's part of my blood. I'm like, yeah, but Stick to your own stuff. I'm like, don't get me wrong, it was fine, and I know, but I just thought it would be good to hear that. You know, don't be Dwayne Betts, you know? But God, does he look like him? You know? Hopefully he's not as big a douchebag as Dickie Betts allegedly was. But, so that was good. And then the Derek trucks, it's funny because there was a point where I was up on the lawn and it's like the back of like City Hall or something. So there's some concrete up there, you know, and they got the drinks and stuff. But you can sit up there and it plenty of room. It was but I was lamenting to my friend via text. I'm like, you know, concerts are just too controlled. Nothing crazy. I don't want to engage in the craziness, but it's always fun seeing a couple kids get too drunk and puke, as long as they don't make a mess on anybody else. Or I don't really like seeing fights. I don't unless it's kind of a harmless fight. You know, I don't want to see some guy get fucking his ass kicked and hear the sounds and see blood. But it just was fun when there'd be crazy shit going, like somebody running and 3 cops or security guards chasing them, shit like that. I liked that. It's the atmosphere I want it to be. And I'm like, this is kind of, it's just so tame and well behaved, you know? But then I'm sitting there and this guy Joe, older guy, is like, we should smoke or something. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. So him and his wife or girlfriend, Karen, started smoking, and Joe just handed me the joint. So, and I mean, I haven't been stoned in a little bit, and I was fried. Like sitting there kind of for, I don't know how long it was, but holding on, just like, holy shit, am I stoned, you know? So then I just start recording. I just wanted to get some visual shots of the general scene. There was like a bass jam going on at the time, essentially. Or no, actually, I think Susan Tedeschi, but they were jamming on some nondescript tune, and Susan was playing, and so I started recording. I kind of wanted to just get the venue, because if you look at it, it looks like a manatee, and there's 2 big speakers hanging down, which would be like the eyes or the teeth of the manatee. You'll see. I'll put some of those videos up. And then all of a sudden, they broke down into a drum jam. And then they came out of that drum jam. And they did a little Moby Dick riff. And then they went into fucking Beck's Bolero. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go on whatever music service. It's a very famous song that famously was put out by Jeff Beck in like his first album, Truth, 68. And Jimmy Page plays the rhythm guitar, and Jeff Beck, you know, it's a bolero, like Ravel's Bolero, you know. Dun, 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 dun. And it was awesome. I mean, Derek, his solos all night. And what's nice about Derek is he kind of knows what we want to hear. Like, he goes for it on every solo. You know, sometimes some bands and some guys just don't seem to just really dig in. And Derek seems to know and bring it to a good peak every time. But also, he looks like he's pushing himself. Like some of the shit he does, just in some of the other stuff, some of the Tedeschi Trucks songs that may not have sunk in enough that I don't. But you can tell he's doing things with his hands, playing his solos, that he's like pushing himself, you know? He's incredible. And he plays just with his fingers, you know? He plays the SG, and it's just all fingers in the slide. But the Beck's Bolero was incredible. You know, it was like 3.5 minutes, just the full thing. Very, very good. And then Warren Haynes came out, which was he was in town. I guess Government Mule's playing somewhere, and he finished the show with them. They did like some jam, which I didn't know, and then they did some Mountain Jam by the Almonds. Then they finished with "We All Gotta Learn to Live Together." I don't know who does that. It was kind of a gospel-y tune. And then that was 9:45. They started briskly at 7:30, and that was 9:45. So that's a good, 2 hours and 15 minutes. But they didn't come out for an encore. I thought that was weird. Especially, just something 4.5 minute song, like One Way Out or something would have been nice. But it was still cool. Warren Haynes is cool. I've never been able to, like in fact, a couple months ago, I bought a couple Government Mule because he's just one of those guys you want to root for, but I just can't, I haven't, it hasn't, like, his stuff is like a little heavier and slower than I kind of just like, but I like it. And some of it I like, but other, it hasn't, same with Tedeschi Trucks. I'm starting to get a hang of a couple more of their tunes. But they have these points in the show where they have a horn section and there's like a breakdown with the trombone. And it's like, I don't mind you having the horns, but really, do we need like the 2.5 minutes of her just womp, womp, womp? So that would be the one complaint. But all in all, quality music, good time. And a good time so I went through Tampa. And I was a little scared because I had some troubles with my car. And I had gotten it fixed. And apparently there was no oil in it. But they said it looks like you avoided any major damage. But I was a little scared to drive it because it ran fine for a week. And then all of a sudden I had the same problem, like on the same spot on the road out here on 70. And then I hadn't had any problem for a week or so, but I was very scared going over the Skyway Bridge. So I avoided it on the way there, and I went up into Tampa to Ybor City to Dewey Amici to get some pizza. I don't like going to Ybor City at night when I used to Uber. That's like the crazy part of town where they got the crazy bars and like the tranny bar and stuff, but also just that's where all the college kids go. That's where everybody goes and gets fucked up. It's crazy. And I used to Uber, so. But going there at 2 in the afternoon is nice. So when the guy at the Dewey Amici, I picked him up several times Ubering, so he remembered me. I'm like, yeah, I haven't been here in a while. He's like, I remember you. I always remembered him, but I wasn't sure. He kind of weird. He's got a weird. I don't know if he's actually he's a young kid. I mean, probably, 30s or early 40s. Just weird, a little weird, hard to understand, but he's like, I remember you, where you living now? I'm like, out in Arcadia. He's like, oh, that was about it. But, and he gave me a free water. So I got a couple slices of pizza and a couple slices to go for that. I'm going to eat one of them. I got 2 more. And then I got another one. They have like this thick, it's like 2 pizzas essentially just turned over on each other, and that's what I'm going to eat tonight. It's like that thick. But they make really good pizza. If you go to Tampa, you want to go to Dewey Amici. They get their own they make pasta, they get their own sauce they make. It's quality food. And then I went to Trader Joe's because I wanted to get some of that buffalo chicken dip. And I ended up getting some of their but I go to the one in Tampa and they don't have it. But it's not because they sold out. So I'm like, do you think they would have it over at the St. Pete's store? And they're like, probably, yeah, because it's not that we ran out. We just screwed up the order. And if you saw who told me that, I didn't have any further questions. So I go on and I see there's one in Palm Harbor, which is it's just north of Clearwater. So I'm like, oh, that would be more convenient for the show. So I went to that, called them, and they put a couple aside for me. And I went up there, and it turned out there was still 20 on the shelf. So I grabbed those. But I told the guy at the register, the guy allegedly put some aside for me. So if you end up with a couple on the side somewhere, that was me, put them back on the shelf. And I got some of their hot dogs. Trader Joe, first time I went to Trader Joe and got their brand hot dogs, they were so fucking tasty, I didn't even need to put mustard on them. No lie. Then they kind of fucked with them. And I haven't had them in a while. But I got 2 packages. We'll see. That'll be tomorrow, most likely. And then that was, so then I went to the show. And it was great because I'm coming in from the north, right on the road that runs along the water there. And I'm seeing all these parking spots in downtown, people charging for parking. And I'm like, I know that this right under the bridge at the amphitheater, there was free parking. And when I went all the way there, past all the parking, because I just know I've done it before and I had faith in myself. And I pull down, and you have to go down. Where I would generally park for the Capitol Theater, which is right there, is like a dirt parking lot right by this huge hotel and shit. But you go down, you go past that and down a hill, and there's the bridge, and they made a new park where this amphitheater is. And there was like 50 parking spots there. And on Sunday after 6, it's free. And you can literally walk. It's like maybe 2 football fields, but it's through a beautiful park with water and slides and little walkways with water, and it's very nice. I made videos. We'll see if we get them up. And then after the show, and I had this all planned out, I went to Smoky Bones. They have a Smoky Bones there, and right across, almost across from the original Hooters, way back at the beginning of Clearwater on 60. And they're open till 1 a.m. So I went in, and the show was over at 9:45, but a little bit of a traffic jam getting out of there. But I went to the Smoky Bones and got my wings, smoked wings, and they came out in like 5 minutes. They must have had a fresh batch right there, and because they were good. So I got 12. So I ate 6 right in the parking lot. Perfect. And then I ate 6 last night. And they gave me extra. I asked for extra blue cheese. They gave me 4 of like the big plastic. So I still got 2 left of that. And I got chicken in my fridge, in my freezer that I like. And so I'll be using that blue cheese. And they got good blue cheese. Yeah. And then I went a step too far. So now I'm going. I get on 275, and I got to go over the Skyway. And everything's good. The car's been running great, but if you've never done that drive, it's like the scariest bridge in the world, even on like a good day. It's fucking nuts. But I'm like, please don't, because it's like over. And but everything went well. But then I get off. I go across the first bridge on 75 at Bradenton, and I get off at 62 or 64 right there, State Road 62. And I go to Taco Bell. I'd already eaten those 6 wings, but I got high for the first. I was hungry, and I had just gotten myself, and it was a mistake. It's like a brand new Taco Bell, but it was like ghetto, and it was all right, but ended up, like yesterday at work, something gave me a bad, and it wasn't the chicken, because I had the other 6 last night and today was fine, but I ended up having to hit the bathroom quite a bit yesterday at work. And it just wasn't, there was something not great about the Taco Bell. I get the number 9, which is the Mexican pizza, and 2 Taco Supremes, crunchy. And I got a soft Taco Supreme, which I hadn't had in a long time, because generally I don't like the Taco Supreme with the soft shell, like, because it has a sour cream. And I'll get like a regular soft taco sometimes without sour cream with the soft shell, and that seems to be better with the soft shell. But since I hadn't had one in a long time, I got one, and something didn't sit great with me. And that was that. And I got home. I got to bed at about 1:45, and I had to get up at 6 o'clock. So it wasn't drinking or anything, but it's still rough. It was a tough day. It was hot. And I was just dragging yesterday at work. And that brings us to today. So we'll do this in this little bonus song. This will be the second time I've ever played it. And this is practice. Well, if your first lover what's that? What the hell does that say? Wow. If it's warmth that you're running from, There's no hiding place. You can't run, you can't hide, you can't run. Address your problems as no one else's problems. You just have to face them. So if you just put your hand in mine, we're going to leave all the troubles behind. Gonna walk and don't look back. Don't look back. Walk and don't look back. Don't look back. Now if your first lover lets you down, there's something that can be done. Don't fear your faith in love, remembering what can become. So if you just put your hands in mine, we're going to leave all your troubles behind. Gonna walk and don't look back. What are you doing? Don't look back. Places behind you, there to remind you. Gotta find the timing on that. Just kind of doing the horn riff. If your first lover broke your heart, there's something that can be done. Gonna heal your faith in love, remembering what can be done, or what is to come. So if you just put your hand in mine, we're going to leave all your troubles behind. Gonna walk and don't look back. Don't look back. We're gonna walk and don't look back. Don't look back. Gonna keep on walking. Faces behind you, there to remind you. That's a funny one. I don't know if it's the video or the Saturday. I think they played it on Saturday Night Live. And Peter Tosh is playing guitar and singing, and Mick is doing his Mickness and like going around, like poking his head up on either. And Peter Tosh is just looking at him like he wants to smack him. Good Peter Tosh, he used to call famously, and I love the Peter Tosh stories, and I've read a lot about Marley and shit, but like Chris Blackwell famously was the founder of Island Records. You know, that's where U2 got their start, on Island Records. But Traffic was on Island Records. And Bob Marley famously, the first album, Catch a Fire, after being a star in Jamaica for many years. But his name was Chris Blackwell. And Peter Tosh would famously call him Chris Whitebad. But he knew enough that the Stones was a good connection to have, you know. But he still went and burned all Keith Richards' furniture in his house. So, you know what I mean? He made it clear that I don't really respect you. I don't know if it quite, you know, I'd say that's pretty disrespectful. So that's it. I just needed to share these things with the world. Don't look back.